Hello and welcome to the next episode of Emotional Intelligence and Quantum Physics. I know it's been a while, but you know what they say, all good things come to those who wait. And we're back with a topic that we're not looking to be a prayer session or a sermon or a lecture or anything like that. It's all about God channeling. And we wanted to come from the perspective of, we often take the idea of when we're looking to have conversations with God or whichever religious aspect we're looking at, or religious aspect that we've put the term on, that we always come from the idea that maybe that personal power is out of reach, that we're not good enough, we're not worthy enough, we're too limited enough to even access what is possible from maybe prayer or other religious type conversations, if you will. And also the idea that maybe there's expectations as well that the higher power seems to have of us, and that we can't possibly access it because it's all about sin, that kind of thing. So we're here to talk about those limitations and what we can do about them from both the emotional intelligence and quantum physics side. So as ever, I've got Nini with me, my co-host, who actually came up with this topic through one of her brilliant posts that she first of all put out there as to what we were experiencing, maybe the symptoms and the myths, and then goes into debunking them. So Nini, if you want to just take things on from there.
Yeah, cool. Thanks so much for the intro. And yeah, it's kind of funny, about 4.5, now almost 5 weeks ago, because I receive messages from God, and people can say, well, how do you know you're not making stuff up? How do you know it's God? Like, what if I'm an atheist? Like, what if I don't believe in that? And I said, okay, whoa, guys, dude, I don't care what you believe in, as long as you're respectful of your beliefs. However you channel, you want to call it God, you want to call it source, you want to call it universal consciousness, I don't care what you call it, it doesn't matter. I think it's important that people feel a sense of that there's something that is beyond that we look up to. And when I say beyond, I don't mean it comparatively, like it's better than me. Yeah. But, think of it like a parental loving figure that just kind of makes sure that you're safe and helps guide you along, because not that a parent is better than a child or a child is better than a parent. It's not a comparative state, but that parent has the voice of experience and has a fundamental knowledge that the child has yet to develop, because, physically they haven't gone through what the parent has gone through, which doesn't mean that, you don't have parents that maybe struggle or what have you. It's not a parent blaming session, but anyways, it's just I think we all look for that connection and who is our higher self. So when I talk about God channeling, I hear it clairaudiently. I'll see visions, and I was told, usually I hear the messages, and then when I hear them, it's not like, when they talk, you hear me talking. It's like, it's this like inner hearing that's all at once, and then I unpack it. So it was this message of, you need to tell the world about what God is, the truth, the myths, what people think, and why certain things are false, and what the real truth is. And I was afraid. I'm like, well, I don't mind talking about God. I'm very confident, but what if I step on someone's toes? I don't want to offend someone. I don't want them to think that I'm preaching none of that stuff. But I started to post, and I wasn't sure how people would respond. And people were like, wow, that's so beautiful. And they'll say, I kind of feel like I channel God too, but I'm not as profound. Oh, no, who am I? And I say, listen, anyone who feels that connection, that love, it's like a parent and a child share together, or two siblings, or maybe a husband and a wife, or two partners, whatever it is. There's that inner knowing of connection and that unconditional love. You don't have to fake it till you make it. They just love you as is. And when you have that connection, you're able to receive the information from incredible places, just beyond what logic understands. So that's how I've come to understand it. It's just this inner knowing, and whatever your deepest insight has integrity with is going to be what you're going to channel. And I say integrity, I don't mean what your ego thinks it wants to see. Well, I want to be rich and famous, I think I should see it. No. But deep inside that place of, I know it brings me love, truth, and joy, and that's, if you want to use the quantum physics from the superposition, that's what I choose to collapse. My version of love, truth, and joy is this, and I choose that for my life. And, the great source God is looking to experience this through us, to have that physical experience, that quantum collapse through mankind. It's if to say God the realm of the absolute remains in superposition. So it's there, it's in potential. It's all, superposition is all possibilities in one 0 point, as if to say there's no space or time. You need a conscious observer to collapse that wave function. And that's what mankind is, or anything, not just man, but anything physical that takes the dimensions of space and time has the ability to collapse that wave function. Physicists argue, what's a conscious observer? The Schrodinger's cat count. I personally believe every animate and inanimate object has the ability to do that, and that's what guides everything we experience. So does God.
I think there's so much value in there that like people can go, whoa, my head might be going already. I think the title in itself, what I'll just land upon for a second, is that when we, as I say, talk about God channeling, it's not about, just psychic experiences or seances or all that kind of thing. And many people might be hearing it going, no, this doesn't really resonate, or I'm not into that kind of thing. That's okay. But I guess the perspective when I say about what God channeling means to me in this regard, and why we called the episode this, was that at some point we've always, consciously or subconsciously, asked God or whomever it might be for help or guidance, like, oh God, or why is this happening to me? And exclamations out loud, maybe conscious prayer, maybe even meditation to seek higher energy levels, powers, that kind of thing. So really, I guess it's all those practices in one. It's our own belief system, the individual looking for that individual connection, because oftentimes we feel that we're being picked on. Oh, why me? As if there's an individual trial that we're being put at. And yeah, look, many religious backgrounds and that have instances and stories and parables of godheads or figureheads being tested, to give that as a moral lesson, if you will, for us. But really, so we want to get away from the religious kind of semantics or examples there, knowing that all the examples of experience are relevant. I'm not here to say that this answer works and this answer isn't. At the end of the day, it's an individual, I think, relationship. So I think the way you took it onto was this whole space of, it harks back to something we spoke about in one of our first episodes of collapsing your wave functions. Now, some new listeners or, previous listeners might go, what are you going on? Now, this is the high idea of the quantum physics that we're mixing in. So, Nini will probably put it better than I am, but what I recall from it is the great ice cream shop analogy. The way you go to a shop and there's a load of flavors that's available, all representing, if you think of each flavor representing a wave function. Now, again, with a bit of interlinking to maths, if you remember it, you remember those probability waves and the how likely is it going to pick this outcome, that outcome, etc., all represented on a waveform. And then when you make a choice, in this instance, you pick a flavor from the menu, you're collapsing all the others to go, right, I didn't pick you, I picked this one with certainty. And what the implications are is that next time you visit the shop, do you visit the same set of wave functions that you saw the first time, or have you collapsed them infinitely to go, no, I like that flavor I had last time, I'm going to pick that one again, and therefore you're picking from a different set this time. So essentially, every time you look to make a choice, consciously or subconsciously, you're collapsing various waveforms. Nini will probably rephrase that better than I can, but is that the kind of gist we're talking about, Nini, here too, that it's an individual choice of the connection we forge?
Yeah, absolutely. And just to clarify with the ice cream shop analogy, is that you go in there and you have many flavors to choose from, and say, yeah, I want chocolate. So you collapse chocolate. That's what you have. All the other flavors are there in superposition, so you can pick them again. But since you pick chocolate, and let's say you like it, now you have a bias, and you might say, okay, I like chocolate, let's pick it again. But every single time you walk in that ice cream shop, you can pick chocolate a million times. Every flavor is available to you, and you can always choose another. And that's the thing. People think God has expectations and God is biased one flavor over. To use the ice cream shop. Well, if you didn't pick chocolate, something's wrong with you. If you didn't pick vanilla, you're bad. Or that's a bunch of BS. BS, for what it stands for, BS can also stand for belief systems. It's a bunch of stupid dictum belief systems that aren't true. God does not care what flavor you pick, but everybody has a level of integrity. Everyone knows what they like and what they don't like, and that preference of what somebody likes is going to lead them to their unique superpower. So if someone is really resonating with chocolate, and that's the thing, for them to say, well, I got to pick strawberry because everyone else is doing it, no, you're going against your integrity. And then the divinity gets sequestered because, you know, you're basically selling your divinity to please other people, and that's not what it's about at all. And anyone that tells you it is, they're lying. Run. Do not listen to them. The purpose is to find the meaning that has meaning for you. And that's why you have all these flavors available to you, because God does not care what you choose. As long as you have integrity and you're following your path of love, truth, and joy, it's all available. And God made each flavor delicious, because people who sit there in positive toxicity and say, well, we're not supposed to have pleasure in our physical bodies. You must abstain. You ever hear of holier than thou? Goddess, and like, I guess they're holier than me because I don't go for any of that stuff. Because, again, God experiences the physicality through us. Otherwise, it remains in the esoteric mental state. But when we live a physical life as human beings in full integrity, that's what God feels. It's like a divine dichotomy.
So I did say that she probably would explain it better than I did. But, yeah, I'm interested then in that idea that, you know, you spoke about that God lives through experiences, or the higher power, I should say, through us, rather than a kind of us versus them type thing. Because, you know, to give rise to what you mentioned before in your content about we sometimes feel we're not worthy enough. So we've got that comparison. And, you know, the comparison of like this big power that's out there, all controlling, all influential, and I'm just a small, insignificant person. And especially when it comes to, I guess, a lot of people have felt the instances and the emotions surrounding my prayers aren't getting answered. You know, a lot of practices and things like that, you know, talk about the help of prayer. And again, I'm not saying that it's useless, not at all. But we take, I think, that to heart a lot. Like, I just need to pray, and then it should happen. And then when it doesn't, it's very much, we kind of become disillusioned. We get feelings of apathy, doubt, pessimism, really, with the whole, well, you know, okay, there might be a God, but probably isn't. And, you know, that fuels the idea, I think, of self-worth, of that, you know. So when we view these kind of possibilities of like, there's no way I could channel God, me, really? And again, as you said, it might come down to, we believe the choices we make are being judged, punished, you know, as if God's keeping a ledger. And indeed, you know, some live their lives through that dictum, you know, that we should always do this side, and if you do that side, you're consigning yourself to all manner of difficulties and stuff like that. But when you've said that actually what we experience, God lives through us as well, if you could expand on that idea a bit more, I think, because that's a new, I think, idea that might resonate with people.
Yeah, cool. And I'm glad you're bringing that up, because, yeah, it's true. This is where the emotional intelligence piece comes in, because I know in my own experience with God channeling, if I'm angry and I'm giving myself permission to feel the anger, and what's beneath the anger, which is usually disappointment and frustration, and I'm feeling it and I'm honest about it, even though I'm not happy, I still can channel God very clearly. But if I'm trying to hide from my emotions, I'm afraid to feel how I feel. If I admit that I'm afraid, then God's going to punish me, and that whole BS comes up again. I cannot hear God at all, because it's like a blocked artery that's, you know, like the block with plaque. The blocking and splitting of emotions literally does that, and I cannot hear a thing. I can't see it, and the answers can literally be in my face. Like, it can be in the next book that I read. Sometimes I'll ask a question, and it comes to me in the form of, I'll read a book, and there's my answer. Many times it happens, or I get a podcast. If I'm all choked up with emotions and I'm not giving myself permission to feel, you know, if I'm blocking myself, I cannot channel God, and that lets me know God cannot live through me. And when I've actually given myself the permission to feel, you know, like 2-3 minutes later, God will say, I've been trying to get through to you. And I'm like, oh. And God actually said to me, listen, when you're blocked, like when you're clogging on your emotions, I cannot, as you are blocked, I can't experience myself through you. You have to be emotionally honest, even if the feelings are negative. So the next question is, yeah, but aren't we supposed to be happy? Like, if we're feeling negative, that means we're not in appreciation. And God says, listen, you know, the unit circle, if you take the unit circle and put it over a function over time, it's called the sine wave. It goes up, down, you know, the trigonometric function. And you have the up parts, which is the happy parts, and you have the down parts, which are the parts of life that just really suck. And God says, you know, you can't, if all there was happy, happy, happy all the time, you wouldn't appreciate it because that would be all there be. It's like if you go to bat and you play baseball and all you do is hit a home run every time, you don't know of anything else. Hitting a home run becomes boring. So we have those downs. Not that we should get lost in the game of when things are hard, but when we use them, I don't necessarily have to call negative energy into my life to know that it exists. I just remain aware of it. And when it does run through me, I give myself the permission to say, yep, I'm having a tough day. And I'm able to then say, I appreciate that, because I will appreciate when this sine wave goes back to the up part, which doesn't mean to sit there and say, okay, bad stuff. That's another thing BS stands for, bad stuff. Bad stuff happens to me, so I can no. You never ask for a test, because you're given that what you ask for. Don't ask for a test. But when it does show up, it's to draw out the more evolved, emerging aspects of your soul, mind, and body that are looking to be birthed through you. So it's very, if that makes sense. So that's how God lives through us. As we develop into our higher selves, we allow ourselves to grow, to evolve, to remember who we are, to give ourselves back to ourselves and stop playing it small and sequestering the truth of our being. We allow God to.
The one word that's coming through from what you're saying is opportunities. And opportunities in the sense that I remember something you wrote and said too, that it's about tapping into your integrity. And only you know what your integrity means. Now, sometimes you feel that it's compromised or changing. It's that instinctive feeling, I feel. But what we tend to, as you say, is that when we're in that emotional state, you know, we resort to all sorts, you know. As I said, it might be prayer, it might be like, you know, desperation, might be whatever. But, you know, often in my space of work, it's like, as you said, just accept what you feel. Which, you know, again, that's not to be a glib remark. It is practice. It is making the mistake. But it's also going, okay, if I'm feeling what I'm feeling, that's okay. I don't need to flip it. I don't need to repress it. I don't need to suppress it. I don't need to engage in toxic positivity. If you feel that, then you begin to give yourself the space. But I feel that so you mentioned you feel blocked, and that's why you're not receiving that communication or channeling from the higher power, God, call it what you will. But when you give yourself a moment to unblock things, to release things from your system, it gives you that space to tap into integrity, your intuitivity. Sorry, if I can get my word out. And that's when I think you begin to see those signs more readily for you from what you said. So it might be a conversation with a friend, a book, a podcast, a conversation, any kind of sign. Now, people might think, yeah, but isn't that your subconscious being clever, doing like things like confirmation bias? Could be. It could be, because ultimately that's what one of our directors of the subconscious is, to meet your needs as you go. So you could interpret any old sign and going, okay, this must mean this, to carry favor into whatever outcome you might be looking for. So again, there's a danger that we might even read the signals incorrectly. But at least you're giving you a chance to process the signals for you, to then receive the further communication that you might have been not even looking for, but, you know, they were coming to you, but you were blocked to the point, so you couldn't receive it.
Yeah, and something interesting to note is that there really is no way to read the signals incorrectly, because, you know, error and mistake is part of the design. You know, we learn by getting it right. We do okay. We get something right. We learn a little bit. We learn a little more from reading, and we learn the most from our screw-ups. Because think about it. You know, you might have read something and been like, yeah, maybe I'll remember that. Or when you do it right, it's sort of like, okay, like always hitting a home run. You don't know something else. But think about the time where you screwed something up so bad, and it's like, I will never do that again. And you kind of laugh at yourself, like, yeah, I learned from that one. So it's, you know, it's our errors, it's our screw-ups. And there's one thing you mentioned about prayer that I wanted to kind of touch on very quickly is when people do the whole, oh, please, God, oh, please, that's actually not what prayer is. That's just a cry of desperation and neediness and expectations and fear. And basically it's like, and if you don't answer my prayer, then you're the scapegoat that I'm going to project the evil, dismissive, authoritarian God in the sky that either is going to smite me with lightning or just turn his head away and not give a care. And none of that's true, because real prayer is a knowledge, an inner knowing, not just an intellectual, but a deep inner knowing of, I know that everything is available for me, like the wave of superposition. I know all these flavors are here for me, and I am looking to tap into the part of myself that knows this. I don't feel it right now because life is really hitting me, but allow me to open so that I can see the possibilities and open to the opportunities, connect to my highest self, and I know it's possible. And then you start taking your attention, focusing it on the intention, and dropping the expectations. Easier said than done, but this is what I use to help me.
Really cool. And I would say that you could phrase that or use that as a prayer. But even if you even talk to yourself in that manner, again, might sound a bit sort of off the wall, but I think when you say to yourself what was it actually? I saw on a podcast the other day, somebody, so it's actually a famous comedian in England called Jimmy Carr, so for those of you who know in the audience, but he was in a podcast just talking about his life, but he's also done some self-help, work. But he was asked to define happiness, and he said happiness is when you unwittingly exceed your expectations. Because the expectation sometimes, that something will happen great. Like, oh, this is going to be amazing, whether it's a night out or an event or whatever it might be. And then, you go along and it doesn't meet your expectations. It doesn't have to be a bad experience. It'd be like, yeah, it was good, but it wasn't amazing like I thought it would be. But he said, when you can ask yourself, going, look, I can just remove those expectations by going, okay, whatever will happen this evening will happen. And so coming back to what you said about when you can just ask yourself the idea that it's not like, I always think that sometimes we utilize prayer as a help agency. Oh, please give me this, please give me that. And again, it might help for some people for their state or, emotional outlay, like, maybe a student praying like, I hope I do well on my exam, I hope I pass my interview, whatever it might be. But as you said, the higher place I think we can get to is go, look, whatever happens will happen. Sometimes things we feel are in our control are not, because there's other people involved and that kind of thing. But as you said, I like the way when he said, just give me the ability or space to open my possibilities, whatever that actually means. Now, we could then add the detail on if we want to, but then when we start to remove the idea that it's just a yellow pages or what is the American equivalent of the yellow pages? The directory with the businesses in stuff. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's the same.
It's the same. Okay.
Yeah,
cool. Rather than treat, the higher power like that, we can go, I just want that ability to open my own possibilities, whatever they might be. It's not to say that will work every time, and that's the magic way to pray or ask or stuff like that. But I'd say if you can even ask yourself and talk to yourself in that manner, saying, it's just about me making those possibilities more open, even that means mistakes along the way. Again, it's not to be sort of reckless and go, right, I'm just going to mess everything up and hurt other people intentionally. As long as you, as you said, come from a place of goodwill, compassion towards yourself and everyone else, you might feel the better way to go.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's about the integrity. I always say follow your integrity and your intuition, because intuition, those of you who have ever walked in a room and say, yeah, this place has a bad vibe, I do not want to be here, that's intuition. It goes along with faith, because faith is you're trusting in something that your logic can't prove. You know it, but your logic can't prove it. And the integrity is, how much do you trust your faith? Because how many people have had those little, I'm sure everyone has had some sort of a ping, and they're like, and then mental gets in there and says, no, it couldn't be. And then you mentalize yourself out of it, because logic is like, oh, no. And then to be able to decipher the difference between that intuitive hit versus that mentalization, and because we have all the reasons, but that person might get mad at unsolicited advice. Like, I'll give an example. I have a friend who is really struggling right now, and I offered to help her. She said no. So everybody no is no. And my intuition said, this woman needs your help. Go to the store and just get her some bananas. It'll be a nice gesture. And I was in the middle of my exercise. I never interrupt my exercise. I can be on the phone, but stop in the middle and run out, very rare. And there was a store, and it said this woman is suffering. And I remember God was saying, she needs you to get those bananas. And mentally, I said, no, that's unsolicited. She said no already. No was no. It would be intrusive, but I could feel that was mental. That was not my intuition. The intuitive hit was get her the bananas. And it was in my body was so strong that even during my exercise, I said, fine. I said, God talks, I listen. So then I ran, I got my coat, and my sister's like, no, my sister didn't see me. A friend is like, are you done? And I said, no, I got a message from God. And like, they know I do this. Like, okay. And I ran. I got the bananas, and I went to the lady at the gym who was struggling. And the confirmation I knew would be, if she received the bananas willingly, I would know it was the right thing to do, right thing for me to do. And if she didn't, then I would say, oops, I made a mistake, and okay, more, I'll just take them home and I'll have them. So I gave them to her, and she looked at me and she said, sweetheart, why would you do that? And I said, because someone out there loves you. Please let it be yourself. And she said, thank you so much. It's the nicest thing anyone's ever done. She received it, and things changed for her. After that, the friendship between me and her has much blossomed, and it was like that confirmation of, yeah, that was not about my ego. That was not a false sense of, I feel good about myself now. It was like, no. And God said to me, you are saving this woman's life. And saving someone's life doesn't just mean Tarzan swinging from a vine, saving you from the leopard that's going to eat you up. It's the slow, kind gestures that can be the difference between someone quitting on themselves versus someone saying, you know, let's give it one last shot. And this woman actually said to me, I have a little Nini that I carry on my shoulders who, when I get down, she'll say to me, hey, you know, did you smile this morning? Did you wake up and see the sun? Stuff like that. And she says it gets her right back on track when she feels down. So that's how I knew.
Brilliant. I mean, what a lovely example of just receiving that message via intuition that we can phrase as God channeling or whatever. But I think we've all got that instinct to tap into. Like you said, tap into your integrity. That spoke, I think, from your own values. And it was like, it doesn't matter what I'm doing. This message is strong enough for me to go and do this thing. You know, not knowing what her response might be. Again, maybe having an expectation it might be like this, which sometimes I think drives more of our behaviors than we might think. Oh, if I get this, is, you know, she'll like it, or he'll like it, or they'll like it, because you hope that, you know, they like it as much as you do, and that through that gesture you get that acceptance and validation through praise or reciprocation or whatever it might be. But for you, it's like it came from your values. It was a small gesture, as you say. You gave it with that, you know, kindness message, which she took, you know, readily and really well. And when people express, you know, it was the nicest thing anyone's done for me for a while, or all these kind of things, it does make you feel good. But the driver isn't necessarily getting that praise and being all, you know, perceived as like the good Samaritan or savior. It's just like, well, it's just a nice thing to do. And, you know, ironically, it is the season where, you know, 2 weeks to go, everybody's running around for presents and getting ready for, you know, enjoying the festive season, that kind of thing. And, you know, a common question that I've seen around on social media is the idea of present giving. You know, do you like receiving presents or giving presents? And more people are saying giving. Again, it might be the seemingly popularist thing to do, rather than going, no, I like getting presents, it's all right. But, you know, I think a lot of people are coming from that aspect of being nice, being kind, and enjoying other people's enjoyment is a thing that, you know, we just intuitively tap into. If they, you know, if we think they'll enjoy it, that's great. As you say, these small things do add up. They sound a bit trite. Maybe we underplay them sometimes, but sometimes these small messages that maybe have been channeled through us into our values from wherever can definitely help people. And I think it starts to get away from, I think, something you said before about we're the ones that define sin. So the idea is that if we make mistakes or the wrong choice, whatever that choice is to us, we're the ones that define that. Yeah, there might be, you know, various angles that talk about these are the things you must not do. This is what sin is defined as. But then ultimately we're the ones that, I guess, apply that and our own meaning to that. You could look at that list and go, well, I don't know about that one. Or is that really one? But by having that operation going there saying, well, shit, I better not do anything sinful, it just, I guess, gives you that whole me versus him angle.
Yeah, it's sin is a kind of a tricky one because, you know, there it puts things as right versus wrong. And, I read in the Conversations with God book series, Neil Donald Walsh, God in that book says, there's no right versus wrong. It's just what's in your highest integrity. For somebody, a very neutral example I give is, watermelon. Watermelon, most people will say, is healthy. It's judged as good. Now, for me, I love fruits and vegetables. I'm a vegetarian. I'm a health food junkie, and I'm just a food junkie in general. But I don't have junk food. That's the funny part. But anyways, I love watermelon. To me, it's healthy. It's delicious. It's amazing. I eat it every day. But someone who has diabetes or an allergy, or maybe is pregnant and can't eat it, will sit there and say, no, watermelon is not good. So is watermelon, quote unquote, sin, or is it saint? And it's neither, and it's both. It's whatever the person who is eating it decides it is. So it's based on your integrity. It's based on your intention. And if someone is, stealing something from the store to save their family's life, knowing that they can't afford it, would you say that's sin? Versus someone who's just shoplifting because he has thrill issues, would you say that's sin? What if the guy who has thrill issues, it's either that or he's going to hurt somebody else in a worse way? We just don't know. We can't judge, because judgment means conclusions, and conclusions means there's one way. This universe, the only constant is change. Everything is fluid. We just don't know. So God doesn't judge, even though we seem to think he does. He, she, it. It's just, at the moment, we're forever changing.
I think I would also say that I think against that, it's about that balance. So it's not about saying just recklessly do anything because, like, hey, someone could twist it in going, oh, I was doing it for this action. That comes from a place, I think, of wanton recklessness, which indirectly might hurt yourself, might hurt people. But that's not what we're, I guess, saying. And it's not to say, we downplay, others' actions. Oh, maybe they meant it like this, maybe they meant it like that. I think it's more about we readily. I think even the term away from sin, it's like, I think any mistake that we do, or any lapse or relapse or anything like that, I think we immediately come back to, okay, I'm going to get, karma might come back and strike me. We place those kind of limitations or pointers on ourselves, going, right, I messed up, whatever it might be. Now I'm going to be channeling the bad stuff to redress the balance. It comes back again to think we've got to keep this balance, a clean ledger, before the end, if you will. But coming away from the idea of sin is like, I think it comes back to your original point, was that God experiences it with us, or the higher power experiences it with us, and it's more symbiotic than we might think. And when we can treat the relationship between the higher power and ourselves in that manner, in that we are as one, if you will, then it's like, okay, I can begin to get on board with the idea that I'm not having to just appease an invisible maker somewhere and live by sort of indoctrined or, a set of rules. Making use them as guidance to learn, understand, and give some information. But I think when you said, you can, that we're more interconnected in that manner, I think that made more sense to me.
Yeah, and I like what you're saying. It's, because people can sit there and say, well, I'm just doing this action because, well, it's for my highest good, and really, that's what they're saying, but they just want to have a free pass to do what they want and be like, okay, free for all. Here's the thing with how it works with God. You literally reap what you sow. So everything that you are doing, if you're saying if you're talking out of both sides of your mouth, that will be felt and that will be experienced through you. So you can't hide from that. So if you're sitting there saying, well, I just want to express myself, but your true intention is to kind of be a jerk, that is put out there in the universe. That energy is created by your intention. And that will be, it's not that you're punished. You're not getting punished for it, but just if you reap what you sow through the laws of cause and effect, that will yield like the outcomes. It's like if you do a poor job on building a building because you want to get it done quicker, and the building is weak and the foundation starts to crumble, you're not being punished. It's just a byproduct of not engineering it and getting the proper stuff going. So that's how it works. And so when we construct the fabric and the infrastructure of our lives and our relationships and whatever it is, what we put in is what we're going to get out. And I know sometimes people will say, why bad things happen to good people? That's topic for a whole other video that we could do. But it's basically because, we don't we're part of a symbiotic dance with so many people. Like, we don't see, in our limited scope, we only see so much. We don't have the God's eye view. So, we're not looking at it from above, seeing the entire tapestry. We're just seeing our one little stitch. And for us, it's just, do we take the needle and thread and keep stitching, or do we just try to, do we just sit there and say, I'm not going? It's, how do we choose to do the dance? Is it up to us?
Yeah, right. That would be a cool future video to do, because I think it's something that maybe a lot of people would have heard this show and gone, okay, I've heard some of this before. The idea that we come from a place of kindness, and we might use prayer in a manner to try and get things that we think we want. But then hearing things like the symbiosis between ourselves and God is like again, these are not meant to influence or change your mind about anything. It's just I feel as if it's just opening your, again, it's this phrase I said before, opening your possibilities, because a lot of the ingrained belief systems that we form are all there just by the fact that we're here. So our upbringing, our experiences, our own observations. Today there might be, say, an apathy towards religion in that aspect, where you're aware of things like, let's say, Christmas, for example. Everybody knows, I guess, the somewhat consumerist perspective of buying presents and the tree and the dinner and all this kind of thing. But what about the whole story of it? I'm not saying you need to know every single thing and that makes you perfect and stuff like that, but it's just, I guess, something that people step away from, going, well, I don't need to know that, I don't really believe that. Again, this might be in a whole nother video. I think when we can bring these wider ideas, like God channeling or whatever, back to our own individual self. And it's like what you said before, there's no actual wrong answer here. All we're saying is just opening the possibilities to go, well, it might actually mean something like this, as in terms of and then it all comes back to the same things that we've probably covered in other videos, that take your own responsibility, your own understanding. You will still make mistakes, but if you come from a place of compassion, then those small little things that you do for yourself and other people become a natural byproduct of all your learning, all your experiences, all your observations, all your mistakes, and that you continue your way forward in that manner.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, this has been a very great talk, and it's been nice to do another one of these. And yeah, it's a big topic, and definitely can, just my own personal stories, I can do a whole thing to share, and would want to do like an open question answer thing. But no, this has been really nice, and I appreciate being invited to talk about this topic.
No, at all. It's a pleasure to host it again. And for anyone watching or listening, do let us know what you think of the topic below, and in the comments below, I should say. And is there anything else you want us to cover or recover or whatever it might be? The more feedback and stuff we get on this, the more we can hone this to bring you guys what you would like to see discussed on this show. So I guess until the next one, we'll catch you then.